Welcome back, America. One of the great sponsors of this show is consumersresearch.org, a group that has been doing work on behalf of consumers for more than a century. Its executive director is the football knowledge deficient Will Hild, who went to the University of Florida, so he doesn't know anything about football. But we like Will as a guest. Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to be with you again.
Now, Will, Consumers Research does a lot of work against ESG and against woke. I have a theory about these balloons, which is that it's a giant DEI project for Lake Huron, which is always overlooked in the Great Lakes. What do you think?
It makes sense to me. DEI is a strange and bizarre creature, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff to try and
so if they've got a Great Lakes Department of Publicity DEI, they're going to say everyone knows Michigan, Erie, and Ontario, and of course Lake Superior, because they even got a song, but nobody knows about Lake Huron. What do you honestly think about DEI and ESGs being paired? I pair them in my mind together, Will.
Absolutely. They are tentacles of the same octopus that is basically trying to get done in the corporate sphere what could never be done at the ballot box. Basically forcing, racial quotas and, racial bean counting down the throats of Americans who don't want it. We're egalitarians. We want to treat people based on their merits. But that's not what these folks want. You're 100% right. ESG helps feed DEI.
Well, the E in ESG is equity, and the E in DEI is equity. So even though consumersresearch.org says the fight against ESG, report woke, support the fight on your homepage, I think it ought to expand to DEI because DEI is a subset of ESG. Am I right about this?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. So I'll give you a concrete example. When these big asset managers, and remember, they're managing other people's money, they're managing your state's dollars. When they go and they meet with corporate executives, and they brag about this, they call it corporate engagement. When they go and they meet with these executives whose shares they control, they say, listen, we would like to see you expand your DEI department. We'd like to see, and BlackRock has said this specifically, we'd like to see a certain racial makeup of your board or certain gender makeup of your board. And we are going to penalize you if you don't have, for example, 2 women on your board of directors. That is DEI. That is pushing racial and sex quotas in corporate America, and it's being done with ESG.
Now, Will, you're also a lawyer. I teach con law. I have a blanket statement. If you are a DEI department in a state organization, you are unconstitutional because you are thinking and acting on the basis of race, which is the one thing which will not survive anywhere except college admissions, and that will be dead by the end of this year. Do you agree with me?
100% agree. And I'll go a step farther than that. These DEI departments are cancerous, not just in the pejorative sense, but in the technical sense, in that they only exist to expand themselves and their control over an organization. They don't add a dime of value to the bottom line of a corporation. They don't help it serve its customers any better. All they exist to do is expand their own ranks and expand the control over they have over the corporation. And with ESG's help, sometimes the very CEOs who are running these companies have to be afraid of their DEI director, which is insane. They should be afraid of their customers, us, and they should be afraid of their shareholders, also us.
That is so true. They are afraid of their DEI director. Now, there's not much we can do about private groups, but we can sue public agencies that do this. Talk to me a little bit about what you think of Governor DeSantis's effort to dismantle DEI departments in every state university, which I applaud because they're all unconstitutional.
I think it's fantastic. It's. I hope every state in the union replicates this. As you noted, these things are unconstitutional. The idea that they even exist is an affront to our system. But I would say that in corporate America as well, the states have a role to play because the immense amount of pension funds that are currently being managed by asset managers who push this stuff in the corporate sphere. If it wasn't for public dollars, not just in red states, but also in blue states, unfortunately, who are pushing this stuff, it wouldn't exist because CEOs don't want it. It's just a cost on it's a liability. It doesn't help them. So we do need the states and Governor DeSantis is doing this as well. He's used the Florida pension dollars, said you're not going to use them to push ESG. We need more states to act like Florida and say, listen, it's over. We're not going to.
I kind of think you're winning because when I see Larry Fink backpedaling, I think Blackstone is just backpedaling as fast as they've realized they've touched the third rail, and shareholders do not like this. They did not invest for 50 years to have their returns cut by giveaways to the ESG crowd. Am I right?
I think you're correct, although I will say right now what they want to try and do is just get away with changing their rhetoric. And what we need to make sure they do is change their actions. So, for example, right now there's a lot of states considering anti-economic discrimination bills that say, listen, if you're going to use your portfolio to attack our state's constitutional rights, our native industries, our consumers, you're not going to use our money to do it. You're not going to be able to do business with the state anymore. So, for example, states like Indiana right now, there's a very common sense conservative bill being pushed, HB 118. And people just need to reach out to their legislators and their governor and say, listen, we just need to get this done. It needs to be replicated in a lot of other states so that these people can't use our own money. Because you're right, they're backpedaling, but right now it's all rhetoric. And what we need to do is force action.
Go to consumersresearch.org. That's plural, consumersresearch.org. Reach out to Will Hild. Thank you, Will. Have a great week. Consumersresearch.org, great sponsor of my program. And thank you, Adam. Thank you, Generalissimo. Thank you, Jacob. The music is playing. You can continue the conversation over at the Grand Old Pod at the Universe. Please don't forget, help the million people who are homeless in Turkey and Syria. The banner is at the top of HughHewitt.com. It's freezing. There isn't enough food, water, blankets, shelter, tents. Food for the Poor is helping get it there. Your 10, your 100, your $1,000 well spent at Food for the Poor, the banner.